In 1926, Professor George Gamel Angel died mysteriously, leaving behind a box of puzzling papers and a clay bas-relief with strange hieroglyphics. His grandnephew, Francis Wayland Thurston, inherited the papers and discovered a cryptic manuscript about a Cthulhu cult. The manuscript told the story of Henry Anthony Wilcox, a young sculptor who had created the bas-relief and sought Angel's expertise in identifying the hieroglyphics. Wilcox's dreams and stories were filled with eerie and fantastical elements, which Angel recorded in his notes. As Thurston delved deeper into the papers, he began to uncover a dark and terrifying reality that threatened to drive him mad. Professor Angel heard a strange tale from a sculptor, Wilcox, who had a dream of great cyclopean cities with green ooze and sinister horror. The dream was triggered by an earthquake tremor the night before. Wilcox's imagination was affected, and he created a bas-relief with hieroglyphics and a voice that was not a voice, saying, "Cthulhu FH-tan." Professor Angel was fascinated and questioned Wilcox, studying the bas-relief intensely. He believed Wilcox was ignorant of any cult or system of cryptic lore, and asked him to report his dreams. Wilcox's dreams were filled with terrible cyclopean vistas, and he eventually fell ill with a fever. Dr. Toby took care of him, and Professor Angel kept close watch. Wilcox's febrile mind dwelled on strange things, including a gigantic thing, miles high, that walked or lumbered about. When Wilcox recovered, all traces of his malady ceased, and he was of no further assistance to Professor Angel. The professor then instituted a body of inquiries amongst his friends, asking for nightly reports of their dreams. The responses from artists and poets told a disturbing tale, with many dreaming of bizarre things, including scenes and half-sounds similar to Wilcox's dreams. One case was very sad, with an architect going violently insane and eventually dying. Press cuttings from around the world showed cases of panic, mania, and eccentricity during the same period. In the early 20th century, a series of strange events took place in insane asylums, which could have led to a major discovery if not for the skepticism of the medical community. A young man named Wilcox was involved in these events, and his story is connected to an older mystery that Professor Angel had encountered 17 years prior. Professor Angel's story begins at the American Archaeological Society's annual meeting in St. Louis in 1908. There, he met Inspector John Raymond Legras, a police officer from New Orleans, who had brought a mysterious stone statuette with him. The statuette was captured during a raid on a voodoo meeting in the woods near New Orleans, and its origins were unknown. The statuette depicted a monstrous creature with an octopus-like head, scaly body, and wings. It was made of an unknown greenish-black stone with golden flecks, and had undecipherable characters etched onto its base. The creature's appearance was so lifelike and ancient that it sent shivers down the spines of the assembled experts. One expert, Professor William Channing Webb, recognized the creature and the writing on its base as similar to those he had seen during his expedition to Greenland and Iceland 48 years prior. The writing was part of a ritual chant used by a degenerate tribe of Esquimaux who worshipped a supreme elder devil named Tornasuk. Inspector Legras and Professor Webb compared notes and discovered that the ritual chant used by the Esquimaux was identical to the one used by the Louisiana swamp cult worshippers. The chant, Ph Nglui MGLWNAF, Cthulhu Arlae W Gonagal FHDan, roughly translates to, "In his house, at Arlae dead Cthulhu waits dreaming." Legras's story revealed a dark cult that was unknown to the police, and its discovery sent shockwaves through the academic community. The mystery surrounding the statuette and the cult's rituals would continue to unfold, revealing a sinister plot that threatened to unleash a malevolent force upon the world. On November 1st, 1907, the New Orleans police received a frantic call from the swamp and lagoon country to the south. The squatters, descendants of Lafitte's men, were terrified of an unknown entity that had appeared in the night, causing women and children to disappear. The police, led by Inspector Legras, set out to investigate, accompanied by a shivering squatter as a guide. As they ventured deeper into the cypress woods, they encountered an eerie atmosphere with twisted trees, Spanish moss, and rotting walls. The squatters refused to advance further, fearing the unknown. Legras and his team pressed on, entering a region of evil repute, where legends spoke of a hidden lake and a formless white polypus thing with luminous eyes. The voodoo ritual they stumbled upon was a nightmare, with animal fury and orgiastic license whipping themselves to demoniac heights. The police were met with a horde of human abnormality, braying and writhing around a monstrous ring-shaped bonfire. In the center stood a granite monolith, topped with a noxious carven statuette. The bodies of the missing squatters hung head downward from scaffolds, surrounded by the ring of worshippers. The police intervened, relying on their firearms to disperse the crowd. After a chaotic 5 minutes, they managed to capture 47 prisoners, including seamen, Negroes, and mulattoes, who were later found to be of a low, mixed-blooded, and mentally aberrant type. The prisoners worshipped the Great Old Ones, ancient beings who came to the young world out of the sky. They believed that these Old Ones would one day return, and the secret cult would liberate them. Old Castro, a mestizo, told the police about mysterious allies and hideous legends. He claimed to have sailed to strange ports and talked with undying leaders of a cult in China. According to Castro, there were things that ruled the earth before humans, with great cities and cyclopean stones on Pacific islands. These great old ones came from the stars, had shape but not made of matter, and could revive when the stars aligned. They lay in stone houses in Arlae, preserved by Cthulhu spells, waiting for resurrection. The cult formed around small idols brought from dark stars, and its secret priests would take Cthulhu from his tomb to revive his subjects. When the stars aligned, mankind would become like the great old ones, free and wild, with laws and morals thrown aside. Detective Legras was impressed by Castro's tale, but the authorities couldn't shed light on the cult or image. Professor Webb had a Greenland tale, but it wasn't enough. Legras lent the image to Professor Webb, but it was returned to him after Webb's death. Young Wilcox, a sculptor, had dreamed of the figure and hieroglyphics of the swamp-found image and the Greenland devil tablet. Professor Angel started an investigation, but the narrator suspected Wilcox of inventing dreams to heighten the mystery. After studying the manuscript, the narrator visited Wilcox, who was sincere about his dreams and art. Wilcox's statue showed a morbid, giant shape, influenced by his subconscious residuum. I met Wilcox, a talented but affected young man who shared his dreams about a Cyclopean city and a ritual involving Cthulhu FHTan. I believed he had heard of the cult casually and forgotten it, but it resurfaced in his subconscious through his art and dreams. I visited New Orleans, spoke with Legras, and saw the frightful image, which sparked my interest in the cult's origin and connections. I suspected my uncle's death was not natural, possibly related to his research on the cult. I then stumbled upon an old Australian journal article about a mysterious derelict found at sea, which told the story of a survivor, Gustaf Johansson, who found a strange stone idol on a yacht. The idol was similar to the one Legras found, and the story hinted at the cult's involvement in piracy and slaughter at sea. The hybrid crew of the Emma sailed with a hideous idol, and 6 of the crew died on an unknown island. Mate Johansson was secretive about the island, and the Vice Admiralty's investigation revealed little. However, a series of strange events occurred: an earthquake and storm on March 1st, the Alert's sudden departure from Dunedin, and poets and artists dreaming of a strange city. On March 23rd, the Emma's crew landed on the island, and 6 men died. Dreams of sensitive men became vivid and dark, and an architect went mad. On April 2nd, the dreams ceased, and Wilcox emerged from a strange fever. The narrator traveled to Dunedin, Sydney, and Oslo, searching for answers about the cult and the strange events. He met with Johansson's wife, who gave him a manuscript written by her husband. The manuscript told of the Emma's voyage, the encounter with the Alert, and the discovery of a stone pillar and a coastline of Cyclopean masonry, the nightmare corpse city of Arlae. Johansson and his men were awed by the cosmic majesty of the city, and the narrator is left with a dark terror, knowing that horrors lurk beneath the surface of life. In a mysterious city, Johansson and his men landed on a monstrous acropolis, feeling a sense of fright due to the abnormal geometry and twisted menace of the carven rock. They found an immense carved door with a squid dragon bas-relief, which seemed to be a door due to its ornate lintel, threshold, and jambs. As they explored, they discovered that the geometry of the place was all wrong, making it difficult to determine the relative position of everything. The door slowly opened, revealing a black aperture with a material darkness that obscured the inner walls. A nasty, slopping sound was heard, and then a gelatinous green immensity emerged, causing 2 men to perish from pure fright. The creature, Cthulhu, was described as a mountain that walked or stumbled, defying all matter, force, and cosmic order. 3 men were swept up by its flabby claws, and Parker was swallowed up by an angle of masonry that shouldn't have been there. Only Bryden and Johansson reached the boat, and they desperately rowed away as Cthulhu pursued them. Bryden looked back and went mad, laughing shrilly until his death. Johansson, determined to escape, reversed the wheel and drove the vessel head-on against Cthulhu, creating a massive explosion. The creature recombined in the distance as the alert gained speed. After the ordeal, Johansson only brooded over the idol in the cabin, attending to his own and Bryden's needs. The storm of April 2nd brought a gathering of clouds around his consciousness, and he experienced a sense of spectral whirling through liquid gulfs of infinity. He was eventually rescued, but the memories haunted him, and he knew that death would be a boon if it could blot out the horrors he had witnessed. As I reflect on my uncle's fate and poor Johansson's, I realize I'm next. The cult remains, and Cthulhu, too, lies hidden in a stone chasm since ancient times. His underwater city has sunk again, but his followers still worship and commit atrocities around idol-topped monoliths. Cthulhu must have been trapped, or the world would be in chaos. The future is uncertain. What rises may fall, and what falls may rise. Evil lurks in the depths, and decay spreads across human cities. A time will come, but I dare not think of it. I pray that if I don't survive, my executors will exercise caution and keep this manuscript from prying eyes.